Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking with Gen Z. This is episode number 3 on YouTube. So if you watched the first 2 episodes, you know that we've been talking about the boomers and then X, Y, and my favorite generation, which is Z. And I have Gen Z here. They're the best educated, probably the most talented. Give us hope for the future, especially for diversity and just making the world a better place in general. Although they've been left with a lot of challenges and a lot of problems. If you look back to the boomers were born between 1946 and 1961. So after World War II, they're kind of workaholics. They were builders and they were ultra competitive, but they also kind of polluted the planet, created global warming. There's some food insecurity. We have 1% of the population that has all the wealth. A lot of issues, but you guys can solve it and you are solving it. Then there was Gen X. That was like 61 to 81. I'm not really a Gen X, I'm probably a boomer, but the Gen X was the doers. They were chasing money and work. That's all they did. They chased money and work, and then they had a huge fear of losing both. So Gen X was the one that invented career-life balance. Like they invented career-life balance, and then they just totally ignored it by working their entire lives off. So it was kind of funny, but neither of these groups, like the boomers or Gen X, they're not optimistic about you. They're really not optimistic about Gen Z. In fact, I can't get them to say anything positive about Gen Z. So there's a lot of channels on YouTube, and if you haven't noticed them, there's YouTubes where they interview Gen Z in Times Square, and they ask you things like, how many dimes are there in a dollar? What do you think? 10. Yeah, and these people can't answer them. And the girl says, oh, is a dime 5 or 10 cents? And then they say, how many stars are there on the U.S. flag? 50. They don't know. And then there's questions like, what 2 countries border the U.S.?
Canada and Mexico.
Canada and Mexico. They can't do that. And then they say, name 2 countries other than the U.S. India, China. So you can do it. And I'll give you a really tough one that I'll just make up on my own. What's any number to the power of 0? 1. Okay, so we just kind of proved that they're not optimistic about Gen Z. Plus, they're ambushing Gen Z in Times Square to prove that your general knowledge is not there, but it is. So I'm just going to go through a couple slides here, and we're going to talk about Gen Z. You guys are creating what I'm calling a digital transformation. You are the first generation that has been totally comfortable with managing your devices. So you are changing the world. You're making a lot of cool stuff. Unfortunately, the millennials, which are Gen Y, have kind of split in 2. There's a group of millennials that got jobs and they got married and they got homes. And then there's the other bunch of millennials that are living in their parents' basements. And the ones that are really frustrated are the successful ones. And they're saying that the other Gen Zs are entitled. They're saying that themselves. Now, you guys have created your whole own vocabulary, like something like slide into my DM, or those shoes are dripping, or facts. I mean, you guys have your own vocabulary, which you've created. You're digital natives, you're digital pioneers. You've left Gen X, Y, and the boomers in your dust. So the rate of change is continuing dramatically. I mean, I have a 5-year-old niece, and I talk to her on FaceTime, and she's never seen a phone that doesn't have FaceTime. So if I show her a phone that doesn't have FaceTime, she's like, that's not a phone because I can't see you. So if you've never seen the previous technology, then this is brand new, or this is normal to you because she's never seen a phone that doesn't have FaceTime. So right now we could actually have 7 generations, but Gen Z, a lot of the pressure is on you guys. And I don't know if you feel it, but we have all kinds of issues with global warming, we have food insecurity, and you guys, I think, are able to multitask. It's kind of amazing the way you multitask. You have your laptops, your tablets, your phones. You can talk to your friends. You can do all of this concurrently, which I know the other generations can't do. Now, are you addicted to your devices? You probably are, but it's not your fault. The previous generations created all these devices, and you have all these devices, and it gives you a lot of dopamine. So 13-year-old girls, on average, I think they check their Instagram 47 times a day, which is a lot. But it's that dopamine and the fear of missing out. So are you addicted to your devices? Yes, but you're using them in incredible ways to help save the planet and to improve the future. So a couple of other things. You have these pervasive digital devices. You communicate in real time. You have been accused of being impatient. Some people say Gen Z is impatient, but that's because you have these devices that can do things quickly. And that has kind of created this impatience. Now, the boomers and Gen Y were kind of polluting the planet and taking all the good jobs. You guys are able to process information much faster than any previous generation. And I'll just say fact, because that's a fact. You grew up with Snapchat, Vine. You want fast, meaningful change. And this is where I think you can really improve the planet. And I have a lot of faith in Gen Z. I think you're going to create a more beautiful world. You don't see diversity. It's kind of interesting. You don't see diversity until it's not there. So if I showed you a picture, it could be Villanova, or it could be any picture from the past, and it's a board of directors, and they're all old men. If I showed you that picture, you would notice it. You would notice the lack of diversity. But your generation only notices the diversity when it's not there, which is different from the boomers and X. So you grew up with Snapchat, Vine, you want fast, meaningful change. Now, there was record voter turnout in 2020, and it was your generation, it was Gen Z that did it. And Gen Z is finally going to outvote the baby boomers. The boomers are done. We just had our first Gen Z elected to federal office. And you're going to make the change that really fixes a lot of the problems that we have on this planet. So you are meeting people where they are in the present. It's funny, when I have conversations with you, you're very much in the present, which is not the way boomers and Gen X and even the millennials are. You guys live in the present. You use your devices and you use your young voices. You're fighting for a healthy, diverse, collaborative democracy. That's what you're fighting for. Now, unfortunately, the boomers have left you with a lot of problems. Gen X has left you with a lot of problems. And even the millennials have left you with a lot of problems. But I have a lot of confidence that you guys can address these problems. Now, it bothers me because you're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you might not have all of that because we're leaving you with a lot of problems. But I think you can fix it, and I think you are fixing a lot of the problems, which is kind of amazing that you've been able to do it so fast. So let's just look at Gen Z. So you're kind of independent with a strong do-it-yourself and do-it-right mentality. You like to do it yourself. You like to do it right. You really prefer your own workspace. So it's funny, Gen Z loves their own workspace, whereas if you look at millennials, the millennials are a little bit different. They like a collaborative team. Whereas I think Gen Z, you want to do it yourself, you want to do it right, and you kind of prefer your own workspace. Whereas the millennials or Gen Y, they want to be together in a team because they want the support. I had a millennial come in for a job interview once, and the millennials, they kind of had these parents who were like, I'll call them helicopter parents or snowplow parents. Like, they organized their play dates, they took care of their lives. This kid just graduated. He was 24, and he came in for an interview with this major corporation, and I was interviewing, and he said, "Can I bring my mom?" And I said, "No, you can't bring your mom." And he said, "Well, I need to bring my mom to the interview." And I'm like, "No, you don't." And he showed up, and I hate to say it, but he was a blithering idiot. He couldn't do anything. And, you know, and I remember going to my nephew's baseball game, and I said, "What's the score?" And they said, "Oh, we don't keep score. We don't keep score. Everybody just gets a participation ribbon." And I think that was the millennials. That was the millennials. That was Gen Y. I don't think your parents were like that. And I went to a public school. There was a sign over the mirror, and it said, "You are looking at the most special, most important person in the world." And I thought, what are we telling these kids? We're telling them they're the most important, special person in the world. What have they done? What have they accomplished? And then you have these helicopter parents who are doing everything for them. And this kid's 25 coming in for a job interview and says, "Can I bring my mom?" Now, your parents, I don't think, did that. I think Gen Z, your parents encouraged you to be independent and do things on your own and take care of yourself. So there was a shift from the millennials to your parents who were like, "You're going to be independent." Now, my friend has a 9-year-old daughter. She lets her ride the New York City subway to school. And all the other parents are freaked out. Like, she's 9 years old, you know. But she's safe, she's protected, she's okay. And she's teaching her to be independent, which I think is a good thing. So you guys are impatient with the state of the world. I know you want to change things. You want more diversity. You're going to have to deal with the problems of food insecurity, the problems of pollution, global warming. Now, you're a little bit impatient because of your devices. And we got you addicted to these devices. So you're addicted because of dopamine. But that impatience is a good thing. And the fact that you're distracted, I think, is because, hey, you're left to fix everything. The boomers are gone. The boomers have moved on, and now the millennials are in charge. And the millennials are split. Only half the millennials have jobs, homes, and got married. The other half are living in their parents' basement. And so half the millennials call the other half entitled and think that they're blithering idiots. So you guys are left to fix everything. I mean, do you feel the pressure? Do you feel a little bit of pressure to fix things, to fix all the stuff that got messed up? I mean, it's a tough question, but
I mean, no, it's a lot of weight on our shoulders.
it is. And I think you feel it. I mean, it's like Gen Z was born. You were born 1996 to 2015, so you maybe experienced 9/11, like September 11th. Maybe you were, in your crib, or maybe you weren't born yet, but it had an impact on you. And then there was a financial crisis in 2008 that also impacted you. Gen Y kind of didn't have that because they were born 1980 to 1996, which is a little bit different. So Gen Z, I think you guys prefer face-to-face communication. I honestly believe that. Like, I know my 5-year-old niece, if it's not FaceTime, she doesn't want to talk to me on the phone. She's like, we got to do FaceTime. She doesn't recognize a phone. It's not a phone if it doesn't have FaceTime. So you guys prefer face-to-face communication with your friends. You like to be in the moment with them. You see people on the phone, so FaceTime is new tech. Now, it's only new tech if you remember what it was before. So my niece has only seen video. So, she's only seen video. She's never had a phone call that didn't have video. So FaceTime is only new tech if you remember what it was before. So for her, FaceTime is just the way phones always were. Now, your Gen Z vocabulary is pretty extensive and unique. I mean, I've got a few words on here like yeet, bussin', fact, drip. I mean, them shoes are dripping kicks. How am I supposed to know this? So, I'm a boomer. Have I had any influence on you? No. All the influence is bottom up. You guys might not know it, but you are influencing the millennials, X, and the boomers. You guys are I was on Facebook until my mother and my grandmother, they all got on Facebook, and then I got off Facebook because it's so, now I do a TEDx presentation and immediately she's commenting, oh, that was excellent. You did a great job. Do you need something to eat? Do you need a ride home? And I'm like, will you leave me alone? Like I've created a monster by showing her YouTube. But I think we've all moved on. What are we doing now? Instagram, TikTok, Instagram. You've moved ahead, but you have an influence on the generations above you. They don't influence you. You influence them, which is amazing because it's bottom up, which is a good thing because you're going to save the planet. It's just the way it's going to be. So Gen Z, I find you really optimistic. You're optimistic about America. I think you watched what happened January 6th, and you weren't really happy with what happened January 6th. I could tell that you weren't happy. You watched the Occupy movement, the Parkland shootings. I mean, the boomers never had to deal with school shootings. There wasn't a thing. I mean, they didn't have to take precautions. You watched the Parkland, you watched George Floyd, you've seen climate change. You got the whiplash from Obama to Trump. So, I mean, talk about whiplash going from Obama to Trump. Now, my niece, she's growing up and she knows there was a black president. And she had a black president. So, for her, it's just something that happens. But before that, it had never happened, right? Now, we still haven't had a female president, but it'll happen. So I think you are more socially conscious. You're really pushing diversity. You're socially conscious. You're a little burnt out. I do notice that you get tired, but it's because you're so overworked, I think. You're socially conscious. You're a little burnt out at the pace of change. I mean, things are changing so quickly that I think you are protesting for diversity and social justice, and you're doing all these amazing things, but you're pretty young to run for office. I think there's only one Gen Z that made it to federal office so far. But the boomers are deconstructing democracy. I mean, it's the politics in this country now. It's bifurcated. You're either a do-gooder, or you're kind of on the other side. You're winning at all cost, which is unfortunate because we're so split. But you guys are going to fix that as well. Because right now the millennials have taken over for the boomers, but you're going to vote far more than the millennials. And as you get elected, you will change things, which is good. So I think you prefer a unique skill in the market of the worker. I know that you might get a job with Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley, but eventually you're going to prefer autonomy. I think you're going to end up working for yourselves, a lot of you. You're going to have your own company, your own firm. We talked about FIRE, become financially independent and retire early. A lot of you, I know you want to do that, but then you're going to give back. You're going to pay it forward, have some type of foundation. You want flexibility, autonomy in your life. You don't want all the stress that the boomers and X, like you do want career-life balance. They talked about career-life balance, but they never did it. So this generation, I think, you're going to be way higher in terms of productivity, but you're not going to work as hard. I think you desire to create this work-life balance. You are going to exercise more. You're more mindful, and I think you're probably going to get more sleep than the past generations. So I think you believe there are different ways of learning. Like college is not the only way to learn. I think you witnessed the millennials graduate. The millennials are what are they? The millennials are Gen Y. They graduated in 2008 with all this huge student debt. And then they couldn't get a job that required their degree. So they were taking jobs just to get a job and living in their parents' basement. So Gen Y is kind of bored and unmotivated at work. I don't think you will be that way. All the boomers are retiring, like 50,000 a day. The boomers are retiring, and then the X's are retiring. There's going to be tons of opportunities for you. There's already max employment. And you guys are going to graduate with a ton of opportunities. And I have every confidence that you're going to be able to solve all these problems. You're going to be able to solve the problems of food insecurity, global warming, all the pollution and damage that's been done to the planet. You guys are like my hope for the future. So when people go online and trash Gen Z, and I'll give you some of the names because, you know, I see them. I see these people on YouTube and they're always trashing Gen Z. I'll just see if I can find a couple channels. So like Klug, Elder, Cynic, and Walsh, all they do is trash Gen Z. They say that you guys have no general knowledge, no hope for the future. And, you know, when they ask questions like, how many dimes are there in a dollar? They can't answer the question. And you guys are clearly far smarter than that. So thanks very much. That's the end of episode 3 in Talking with Gen Z. Thanks, guys, for participating and answering all the questions. This will get loaded hopefully in the next couple days, and we'll see you all on YouTube. Thanks a lot. Take care.